Hi everyone, good to be here and great to talk to you. And I would like to talk to you a little bit about how to leverage technology to streamline ESG programs. It might seem like a very straightforward topic, but I just want to give a few pointers as to why technology should be playing a really, really central role when it comes to ESG reporting and data gathering. Who am I? Why am I talking to you? My name is Marlene. I lead a team of solution engineers at OneTrust. We focus on ESG and ethics in my team. And that means that I speak to companies from all over the world, different sizes, different industries, about their ESG programs, understand how do they do their ESG reporting, how are they succeeding, where are they failing, and I can learn quite a lot from all of those companies, luckily. I've got a few things that I would like to talk to you, but I also don't want to keep you from lunch and other sessions for too long, so trying to make this pretty quick for you. ESG and the trust imperative. So if I look at ESG and sort of why is ESG so important, I think there's loads of different definitions, different reasons you hear. But to me, is all about building trust, right? So as consumers and different stakeholders, what do they want from companies these days? And trust is really fast becoming this thing that companies are striving for. And ESG is one of the tools we can use to actually be a trustworthy organization, present ourselves that way in the market. And consumers are definitely one of the big groups that are driving this. Consumers are way more conscious about what they're doing, what their impact is on the environment, and they're starting to expect the same from organizations. They want to buy from companies that have that same awareness. They want to buy from companies that are doing the right thing, doing good, and sort of live up to the values that consumers bring to the table. And I think we could also see that during COVID, right? People sort of paused, everyone was sitting at home a lot, so there was not much to do. And then all of a sudden, all these news stories came up about dolphins back in Venice and the canals and all those sorts of things. And people suddenly realized what impact our daily lives have on the environment. And suddenly people are even more conscious about what we do to the environment. And again, this is something that people then bring with themselves when they go out to buy goods, when they buy services, and they start expecting these things from companies. But how do I, as a company, translate that into being a trustworthy organization? How do I sort of flick that switch and suddenly say, okay, no, we're green, we're doing great in ESG. Sounds simple. I think it's not a secret to all of us here in the room that it's definitely not. And there's loads of different parts within the organization that have to come together. And I think it's one of the biggest challenges that I see with my customers to bring all of these different departments together. You might have someone who's head of ESG, chief sustainability officer, but in reality, you really need to network across the organization. You need sort of friendly colleagues in all these different departments to get information from them, get them on board, get their buy-in. And suddenly ESG turns into this massive, complex network within the organization that we're trying to manage. And it's not just consumers that have an impact on it, right? So if we look outside of the organization, there's loads of other stakeholders that are having an impact. There's regulation coming our way. We see the EU waking up. We see the US waking up, the SEC getting in there. We see stakeholders, sort of broader stakeholders, being more interested, not just consumers. We see employees suddenly demanding those things. I'm getting involved in loads of interviews that we do where candidates ask us about how are you offsetting your carbon footprint as an organization? How do you really ensure that women in technology are supported in your company? So there's loads of questions coming from employees as well, which I think is great to see that people bring this to their organizations. Investors obviously start asking questions about ESG, and we also see frameworks. I just heard the end of the panel discussion right about TCFD, ISSB, all those sorts of frameworks and the expectations that they bring to the table. So as an organization, there's loads of different things that I suddenly need to look out for and that I need to take into account when I start building my ESG program. What are the things that I see working with my customers? So what are sort of the strategies for success that I come across in my daily business? And some of them might seem quite obvious, but I think sometimes it also helps to just really think about them and really think about, okay, are we actually doing this in our organization, or could we be doing better? And there's a few sort of actions that I see, generally speaking, across industries, across sizes of organization, that I see working within companies when it comes to building out ESG programs. I know it's quite small on the slide, I do apologize. But first of all, we just said, okay, ESG doesn't just sit within one part of the business, within one department. It sits across different functions. So it's important to have a team. We always call it a tiger team. I find the word a bit weird, but to have that tiger team of different departments coming together and really working on ESG together, right? Not just one isolated function, really bring people together. Have a formalized approach. Like the way that sometimes I work with companies who have the most amazing sustainability reports, who do loads of great things, but when it comes to really talking about the strategy and how do we strategize our ESG approach, it's pure chaos. There's no clear formal approach. There's no real sort of learnings. There's no incorporation of business practices we see in other areas into ESG. So having that formalized approach is also something I can only really strongly recommend. Having a roadmap, right, identifying gaps is really important, having a roadmap to close these gaps, and get buy-in from C-level, get buy-in from the board of directors, and at the same time also share data with them, give them insights, right? They provide you with buy-in, they provide support, but in return they will need data, they will need insights, they will need reporting to actually keep that backing up. But then I think the most important thing is, sorry, something's wrong with my slide, apologies. The most important thing is the business case. And again, sometimes ESG or people who work within sustainability get a bit sensitive when you say, oh, it all comes down to the money at the end of the day. But we all work for companies, and what do companies do? They want to improve their bottom line. So from an ESG perspective, again, it is really important to map ESG performance, map ESG initiatives back to how they impact business KPIs. So how can we improve, and you can't really see it, I do apologize, brand loyalty, for example. How can ESG help improve that in the company? How can we impact risk, organizational risk, strategic risk that we are faced with as an organization? How can ESG have an impact on those? And really linking that back, building a business case, again, helps to build a successful ESG program. And then these programs, and I think, again, my slide is not doing what I wanted to do, has to be a holistic one as well. It can't just be, okay, we've got our net zero target, we're tracking our carbon footprint, that's it. We need to look at it from a holistic point of view, look at it from a compliance perspective. So look at risk management, look at strategy around it, look at policies. How do these things feed together? How do they link together? What do I need to bring to the table to have a holistic ESG program? Now, as I said, I wanted to talk a little bit about technology. And again, it might seem very obvious. I mean, technology, software is nothing new. We all use it every day. Why do we need to talk about using it for ESG, and how do we evaluate software for ESG? But I think, again, in reality, loads of the customers I speak to try and manage ESG with Excel spreadsheets, with Word documents, sometimes even still on paper, and that brings its own issues, right? It's not really efficient. People waste a lot of time copying data from one system to the other when people could be doing way more impactful things within the organization. And that's why really looking at technology, I think, is an important step of building out ESG programs. Loads of the challenges I see, right, companies struggle to get started. Sometimes ESG can seem like this massive mountain, right? There's so many things. There's the E, the S, the G. The E alone, right, you can get lost in carbon accounting, then there's water usage, there's waste, there's circular economy, all those sorts of things. And it can be very difficult, especially for small organizations, to just find a starting point and get started. Again, technology can be a good way of sort of helping us with that, guiding us through and pointing out gaps that we need to focus on the most. Complexity, again, the information that we need from an ESG perspective is very complex. It is very broad. We need to somehow bring it together, combine it. Yes, we can do it with Excel spreadsheets, we can do it manually, but wouldn't it be much nicer if we wouldn't have to? And then data collection, yeah, do we have to do it manually? Do we have to go out and ask all the different departments, get their data, get their feedback, when it could just happen automatically in the background? And there's loads of different use cases that technology can support. And again, my slide is being not very cooperative, but first of all, centralizing data. So bringing data into one central location. So I don't have to look in 5 different systems. I don't have to look into my HR system, into my travel system, all those sorts of things. I have one single source of truth for everything that I need from a reporting perspective. Looking at my third parties as well. So especially when we look towards European legislation, third-party management is becoming more and more relevant. It's not just about what do I do as an organization, it's also about what do my suppliers do. How can I maybe work together with my suppliers to help them improve as well? How can I look at carbon information coming from suppliers? Again, technology can be a very great way of exchanging this information with no big manual effort behind it. Risk management, automatically identifying risks, is a big area as well. And benchmarking. I think I just heard it as well. There's loads of good databases out there to benchmark yourselves, benchmark your metrics, your performance against your peers and get an understanding of how you're doing as an organization. And again, yes, you can do it manually, but it can also happen automatically with no big manual effort. When actually evaluating tools, what are the things that I would always recommend my customers to look out for? Is automation and automation capabilities, it's accuracy and audit readiness, and is the actionable qualities of the software. What does that mean? In terms of automation, we want software to be cloud-based. We want software to sort of automatically kick off workflows in the background. If I know that I need to collect certain data points once a month, I don't want to do that manually. I want to do I want my system to do that automatically for me in the background. I want it to be secure, right? I want to have reports that get automatically created and sent out that maybe alert me of any anomalies in my data, that let me know if something is off track and not behaving as I want it to be. So loads of things that we can automate and loads of areas where software can really help. When it comes to audit readiness, and again, it's something that is often forgotten because currently, yes, ESG information, some companies are ready, prepare for audit readiness and already think about it, but loads of companies don't. But it is definitely on the horizon, right? We need to prepare for it. So we need to have a solution that helps us do that. So we need to have that single source of truth. I need to be able to show where did my data come from, who changed the data, how did the data change over time, what mechanisms or what calculation methods do we use to analyze our data. Sorry, my screen is doing weird things. And I need to be able to produce these reports as well when I'm being asked from external parties to prove what I've been doing. So preparing for audit readiness is very, very important when it comes to transparency and when it comes to building trust as an organization. Actionable, what do we mean with that? So having support out of the software, getting recommendations, identifying gaps, identifying issues in our data, for example, getting dashboards, getting real-time insights, how is my data behaving, how are the things that we're doing as an ESG team really impacting the organization? Are they having the impact that we want them to have? Are we impacting the bottom line as much as we wanted to? Using artificial intelligence, again, for our data analysis, doing sort of predictions for the future, understanding where we could be with initiatives that we're introducing and improvements that we're launching. All of that is, again, something that software can support with. But it's not just sort of that, those sorts of capabilities that we want to look out for. We also want to look at sort of the broader network that comes with it. So it's not just the technology itself, it's also everything that comes with it, right? Is the company that I'm using, do they have the right support? Do I get the right advisory with it? Do I have a network? Do I have sort of exchange with peers to exchange best practices, learn from others, and again, be able to improve my ESG reporting and my ESG program? So all of those, again, are things that I would strongly recommend to be part of the evaluation when we look at software. Very quickly, about OneTrust. As I said, I do work for OneTrust. If you have any questions about anything I just said, we are literally, if you walk outside the door, the big green banners, that's where we are. So I'm happy to take any questions there. But we have a software platform that basically does exactly that. So we can tap into loads of external sources, data providers, we can tap into other software solutions that companies use to extract data and then analyze the data, put it into the right format, and automatically produce reports in line with frameworks, in line with upcoming regulation, and make the whole process easier and more streamlined for companies. And yeah, happy to answer any questions later on. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy the rest of the day.